Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS. We are into college football week 4. Week 3 needs to be put in the rearview mirror immediately. Saturday absolutely smoked me, so we're not going to talk about it anymore. But yeah, we're into week 4, starting out with NC State, Clemson. This one's on Saturday. Let's go.
Welcome to the SWUS. The SWUS.
Season kind of expecting to see a new version of this North Carolina State team. They brought back most of the production on offense and brought in Grayson McCall. So I think most NC State fans, and if you're an NC State fan, correct me if I'm wrong, I think most NC State fans were expecting to see a little bit more high-powered of an offensive football team this year, and that's just not what we've seen so far. Now, it's very early in the season, but NC State is sitting at 99th in OFEI, 111th in yards per play, 102nd in yards per carry, 105th in yards per pass attempt. I mean, not great-looking numbers there. Now, if you look at some advanced metrics, they're still rated 64th in effective pass, so this is still considered a decent passing attack, but as a whole, definitely a disappointing start for the NC State offense. Offensive line is creating zero push here in the run game, 104th in run blocking grade, 104th in offensive line yards, 111th in stuff rate, 122nd in power success rate. Doesn't look great. Grayson McCall just really struggling to get the ball down the field. Here are his numbers from the 2 games against FBS opponents. 68.6% completions, just 4.51 yards per pass attempt, no touchdowns, a pick, 101.4 passer rating. By the way, we don't even know if Grayson McCall is going to be playing here. He got injured in last week's game against Louisiana Tech, and there, as far as I can find, I'm not seeing any information on whether or not he's going to play. If you're an NC State fan and you follow the beat writers, leave it in the comments. Is McCall playing or not? As of right now, I believe he's questionable. So actually, as I was recording this video, Grayson McCall just got ruled out. Literally just happened on Twitter as I was recording this, so never mind what I just said. We're not going to get Grayson McCall in this game, which means CJ Bailey's going to be the starter. The North Carolina State offensive performance against Tennessee was so disappointing. Just 143 total yards, 39 rushing yards, 1.4 yards per carry. They couldn't do anything against the Vols, and the reason I'm bringing that game up specifically is that's the closest comparison we're going to get to this Clemson defense. Now, their numbers on the year don't look great, just 95th in yards per play, 120th in yards per carry allowed, but these numbers are not a great indication of what this Clemson defense is. First of all, they opened their season up against Georgia, who might be the best offense in the FBS, although they struggled in Kentucky last week. But they always struggle in Kentucky. I'm not reading too much into that. So they opened their season against Georgia. And by the way, their defense actually played pretty well for most of that game. The offense just couldn't do anything. And eventually you keep putting Georgia in good field position, they're going to score points. So I wouldn't say Clemson's defense looked terrible in that Georgia game. But anyway, they opened their season against Georgia. And then last week they played Appalachian State. I'm sorry, that was 2 weeks ago. They had a bye. So 2 weeks ago, their last game, they played Appalachian State. And you might look at the final score here, 66-20, and say, oh, App State actually was able to move the ball and score some points on Clemson. That's not really how it went down. So after 5 drives, the App State offense had punted 5 times. They had run 22 plays for 38 total yards. So they weren't doing anything. Do you know what the score was after those 5 drives? 42-0 Clemson with 10 minutes and 39 seconds remaining in the second quarter. So this game was done early. They were up 42-0 just early into the second quarter. So yeah, later in the game, App State was able to get the ball down the field and score some points, but that game was over early. And also, App State has a good offense. That's probably the best offense in the Sun Belt Conference, so it's not like App State is some scrub team. That was an elite defensive performance, even though the final score says App State put up 20 points. So what can we expect from NC State here if CJ Bailey is going to be the starting quarterback? I mean, this is all we've seen from him. 13 of 20, 156 yards, no touchdowns, a pick, a 68.9 QBR. This was against Louisiana Tech's defense, too. Slight difference here. He also had 4 carries, 27 yards on the ground, and a rushing touchdown. I mean, I watched the highlights. He's 6'6", definitely has a lot of potential. looks a little slow with his delivery, and I mean, a lot of his throws, he had a very clean pocket to throw from. Not sure if that's going to be the case here on the road in Clemson. And I mean, if you make the comparison between Louisiana Tech's defense and Clemson's defense, I mean, they shouldn't even be mentioned in the same discussion. We're talking about the 124th ranked defense against the 18th ranked defense. And honestly, based on Clemson's weird start to the schedule and the weird second half of that App State game, I would say 18th is kind of underrating this Clemson defense. So that puts us in a tough position here when it comes to this NC State offense. I mean, I don't know how we could put any faith in this kid going on the road in Clemson, his first career start. It's a tough spot. That being said, I mean, look what the kid in Texas A&M just did in the Swamp. We're seeing these freshmen come in and perform. So, I mean, maybe he's got that kind of talent. But as far as trying to make a prediction, you'd have to say it's going to be an ugly one for him. Now, on the other side, we got the Clemson offense, and I think this unit might be a bit underrated based on the fact that this was such a bad offense by Clemson standards the last few years, actually. This team's rated 18th in OFEI, 25th in yards per pass attempt, 37th in passing success rate, 26th in effective pass. Cade Klubnik's got some solid-looking numbers on the year. 521 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. Now, disclaimer, all his production came in one game because against Georgia, he didn't do much. Now, to be fair, there weren't many opportunities for Cade Klubnik to make plays in that game. But against App State, he completed over 92% of his passes, 378 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, a 277.9 pass rating. He was perfect. He was absolutely perfect in that App State game. And if this was last year or 2 years ago, I'd say this NC State defense is going to be a tough matchup. But like we already talked about, they lost a lot of production on the defensive side, including Peyton Wilson, 403 career tackles. I believe he was the North Carolina State leading tackler 3 separate seasons. I'm not sure. Definitely 2. Might have been 3. So, I mean, this was the captain of their defense. This is their main linebacker here. He's gone. He's actually on the Steelers now. So how has this NC State defense looked without him so far? I mean, not great. 104th in yards per play allowed, 94th in yards per carry allowed, 100th in yards per pass attempt allowed. They're still rated 22nd in DFEI, 49th in effective rush, 29th in effective pass. So some advanced metrics suggest that this NC State defense is better than this, but no question, based on what we've seen so far, it's disappointing. Now, as far as their defense against the run, they did finally show up in week 3 against Louisiana Tech. Just 43 rushing yards allowed, 2.3 yards per carry in that game. Before that, they had gotten run all over. Tennessee, maybe a little understandable. Tennessee's elite. But Western Carolina was running the ball in this NC State team, and that's definitely alarming. So I guess it's a good sign that the run defense showed up against La Tech. But here's the problem with that. Jack Turner was throwing the ball on him. 19 of 36, 281 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 40.1 QBR. It's not a good game by any means, but you can't be letting Jack Turner do that to you. Louisiana Tech, Sonny Cumbie, you cannot let that happen. So I don't know how we have faith in the NC State defense either. And normally with a program like NC State with a solid defensive reputation, a solid coaching staff, an established head coach, I'd say, hey, they'll show up for this one. They'll show up for this rivalry game. Well, we just looked at the history, and Clemson's lighting this team up left and right. Last year was the first year we really saw NC State's defense give Clemson any sort of problems, and their defense got significantly worse, and Clemson's offense, in my opinion, is much better. So I have no faith here. On paper, Clemson should light them up here. The pace of play we've seen from these two teams is a little bit concerning, though. NC State 113th in pace so far, Clemson 92nd. So if we're talking about laying 20 points here, or we're talking about taking a Clemson team total over, the pace might kill us. That's my only worry here, is the pace of play. I mean, on paper, especially without Grayson McCall in the game, Clemson should win this game by 30 points. So I did lay the 19.5. Little worried about the pace. Also a little worried about Cade Klubnik choking in this one. Hey, if a freshman quarterback goes on the road into Clemson and is able to score points on the Clemson defense, then you got me. I mean, it just happened to me too. In the Florida game, I had Florida plus 4.5. They scored 20 points in the game. Connor Wigman's ruled out. Freshman comes in and puts up 33 in the Swamp. So it's not to say it can't happen, but I'm willing to bet on it not happening twice in a row. I'm on Clemson minus 19.5 here. Live show Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time up to kickoff. We'll go through every single game on the board, or as many as we can. We did 28 last Saturday. Hopefully this Saturday goes better than last Saturday did. So yeah, if you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. If you want to see all the bets I currently have open, head over to KyleKirms.com and click on open bets. yeah, let's have ourselves a much better week 4 than we had a week 3. Still early, plenty of time to find some angles here. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you in the Discord.